Hello, not something nice to talk about, but today I'm going to explain what you have to do if somebody dies in Spain. My name is Michael Davies and I'm a Spanish estate planning lawyer with offices in Marbella, Almeria and Oaxaca. I've been in practice for over 25 years, handling mainly, as I say, estate planning and probate. Okay, so let me just quickly explain what happens when somebody dies. Okay. Okay, so if somebody dies at home in Spain, all you need to do is call 092 and they will send the police round. You should also contact a doctor, but if you don't contact the doctor, it doesn't matter because that's the first thing that the police will do for you after asking you whether you've done it yourself. And if you haven't, they will just simply call a local doctor. Again, with the funeral parlour, you can contact the funeral parlour of your choice. But if you don't do that, again, don't worry because the police or otherwise the doctor, if he's already on the scene, they will do that for you. If somebody's died actually in a hospital, then they take care of everything. They will be calling the funeral parlour themselves. They will ask you in the first instance whether you've got some kind of funeral plan. If you have, they will ask you for their number and call them, or otherwise they will just call one of the local funeral parlours to take care of things. Okay, when is an autopsy done? In all cases when there's an accidental death, in all cases where there's been no doctor present at the time of death. In other words, if somebody dies at home, then it will always be an autopsy, and also in any case in which a judge orders an autopsy to take place. The registration of the death, somebody passes away, you've got to present the death certificate to the civil register within 24 hours. It's absolutely normal for the funeral parlour to do this for you. In other words, even if they don't ask you or anything, do not worry, because in Spain it's become absolutely general and normal practice for the funeral parlour to do this. Okay, so in Spain, as soon as the death has been registered in the civil register, a burial license will be issued so that either the burial or the cremation can take place. In Spain, it surprises, especially English people from the US, of how quickly the burial takes place. In Spain, it's very normal for the burial or cremation to happen within 24 to 48 hours of the death. In Spain, burial is the norm. If you want the body of your loved ones to be cremated, you need to mention this to the doctor. Normally, the doctor that comes to issue to organise a death certificate, normally you'd mention it to them. Okay, so the first thing that your lawyer will ask for regarding the probate process is going to be the death certificate. Now, the death certificate can be obtained by the lawyer through the civil register, but it's absolutely standard practice for the funeral parlour to, within about 8 or 9 days of the death, they will supply you with 5 or 6 copies of the death certificate. There'll be 2 or 3 Spanish ones and 2 or 3 international ones. The lawyer in Spain will just need one of the Spanish ones. Something that causes attention to the other nationalities in Spain is that the actual death certificate does not contain the cause of death. This has been like this in Spain now for quite a few years, and it's to do with data protection. And so if you want to have the actual death certificate with the cause of death, you will not actually have to go back to the hospital where your loved one deceased, and they can issue a copy of the one that was actually issued by the doctor. But the one that is supplied by the funeral parlour for all legal issues no longer contains the cause of death. The one with the cause of death is presented to the civil register, and it's the civil register that then issues copies of the death certificate, but they issue it without the cause of death. So the other question people ask is, what happens with the funeral expenses? Well, if you have a funeral plan, obviously they'll take care of it. If you don't have a funeral plan, normally the funeral parlour will present you with a bill together with the death certificates, which could be, we're used to seeing bills anywhere between 2,500 and 4,000 euro. They'll present you with a bill, and you can either pay it yourself, or you can ask your solicitor to present it to the deceased person's account for payment. If the lawyer happens to be the executor of the will, he'll just co-sign to say that he reckons that the bill is reasonable, and in the bank they will just automatically make a direct payment from the deceased person's account to the account of the funeral parlour. Okay, so what happens if you want to repatriate the body? I'm going to read this. If the deceased or the next of kin requests that the body be repatriated to the country of origin, this must also be communicated to the attending doctor when the death certificate is being completed. If a body is to be repatriated, the passport should be kept with the body. It cannot cross international borders or fly without it. Repatriating may be covered by travel or life insurance. If this is the case, insurance company will make arrangements. A body can be cremated in Spain and the ashes flown to the home country. Ashes must have with them, the death certificate. So the conclusion, there are 3 things you need to know. If the person dies in hospital, they will call a funeral parlour themselves, and the funeral parlour will take over from that moment onwards. So, with respect to that, if your loved one dies in hospital, if there is a particular funeral parlour that you want to deal with things, you need to tell the hospital so that they're aware and don't call somebody else. The same as if there's a funeral plan, you need to make the hospital aware that the company that you have the funeral plan with will take over. If your loved one died at home, then you automatically need to call 092. 092, just 092, and they will take care of everything. They again, if there's a particular doctor or funeral parlour that you want to take care of things, make sure you call them. Otherwise, the police will call somebody local. Third thing is to contact your solicitor to deal with probate and ask them to get in contact with the funeral parlour regarding their certificates. So on our blog post, we basically useful contacts. Well, we always recommend have your lawyer's number to hand. Maybe there was a lawyer that prepared the wills for you. You can contact them, or if you want to contact us, that's fine as well, or any other lawyer that you basically feel is the right one to handle probate for you. It does not necessarily need to be the one that's been named as executor on the will. The emergencies number, that's very important. That's the 092 that I mentioned before. You call this number and they will automatically organize the police, doctor, etc. Funeral parlours. Well, if there's a particular funeral parlour that you would like to use, then have their number their number to hand. On the blog post, in the notes below this video, you will see a few funeral parlors and their contact details, at least for those in the most popular destinations: Marbella, Malaga, Almeria, Majorca, Alicante, and a few others. I've also added in the notes below the list of consulates. If you have any doubts about repatriation or anything like that, you can always speak to them. So I've included below the British consulate, Irish consulate, US consulate, Australian consulate, Canadian consulate. Also, below on the notes, you will find some links to articles that I think you may find of interest in relation to inheritance, in relation to probate, mistakes that you need to avoid regarding probate, and an introduction to the services that we offer in relation to probate. I hope you found this video useful, and thank you for watching.